Hello, Namaskar. This is Firstpost, and you're watching Vantage with me, Palki Sharma. We begin with a terrorist attack in Kashmir. It targeted tourists, innocent families on holiday, shot dead in cold blood. At least 20 people are reported dead. Many others are in hospital, so the toll could rise. That is the fear. This is an attack on India and on the Kashmir story. We will tell you who was behind it and how New Delhi is responding. In the US, the president is targeting the chief of the Federal Reserve, and this fight is taking a toll on the markets. Meanwhile, gold is soaring. It has crossed 1 lakh rupees per 10 grams. And as tariffs loom, Americans are panic buying South Korean beauty products. Prime Minister Narendra Modi is in Jeddah. We'll tell you how it's a boost for India-Saudi ties. Highlights from day 2 of US Vice President J.D. Vance's India visit. Why Donald Trump may be looking to fire his defense minister. Will Putin and Zelensky sit down for talks to end the Ukraine war? Why internships are on the rise the world over? And what is the point of celebrating Earth Day? What do we achieve apart from poster-making activities in school? All this and more lined up. The headlines first. The International Monetary Fund makes sharp cuts to the global growth forecast, cites Donald Trump's tariff policies for downgrading the outlook for almost all countries. The US growth forecast has been the worst hit among advanced economies, while China's economy is expected to grow well below Beijing's official target. The IMF has also cut India's 2026 and 2027 forecasts. Russia to host a summit with Arab League leaders later this year. President Putin made the announcement as he met the Sultan of Oman, whose visit comes days after Putin hosted Qatar's emir. Moscow is looking for new partners as it faces sweeping Western sanctions over the Ukraine war. A Hamas delegation heads to Egypt to discuss ideas for a ceasefire in Gaza. Last week, they had rejected Israel's latest proposal. In March, the Netanyahu government resumed air and ground assault in Gaza. Since then, talks have failed to produce any breakthrough. Israel has blocked all aid to Gaza for nearly 2 months. Myanmar junta extends a ceasefire declared after last month's earthquake, which killed nearly 4,000 people. The junta had said it would stop attacks on its armed opponents following the disaster, but residents in the combat zones claim that the fighting has continued. The junta seized power in a coup in 2021, sparking a civil war. And Kenyan President William Ruto is in China. It's his first state visit to Beijing as Western support for Nairobi wanes. During Ruto's 5-day trip, the focus will be on trade and investments. Kenya is a key partner of China's Belt and Road Initiative in Africa.
Please ask for help.
You okay? You need a water, sir?
मेरा पति साइड में था, एक इंसान आया, उसने उसको गोली मारी।
यहाँ पे।
In cozy think tanks, people often debate a question. What is terrorism? Is it religious? Is it political? Or is it a mix? Is it a movement or an ideology? Well, tonight I can show you. I can show you what terrorism looks like. A young woman sitting beside her husband's dead body. This heartbreak, this loss, this tragedy. This is what terrorism looks like. And today it came for Kashmir. The news trickled in around evening. Terrorists targeted tourists in Kashmir's Pahalgam, specifically the Baisaran Valley. This is a location off the main road in town. It's only accessible on foot. Reports say 2 or 3 armed men entered the valley and they shot the tourists assembled there. Survivors say it was a targeted killing, that terrorists tried to identify non-Muslims and shot them. A video has emerged from the location. It shows the aftermath of the deadly attack. Take a look at this.
मेरा पति साइड में था, एक इंसान आया, उसने उसको गोली मार दी।
यहाँ पे
उसने बोला कि ये शायद मुस्लिम नहीं है, उसने उसको गोली मार दी।
नहीं आप टेंशन मत लो, अब बेटा आप यहाँ पे रहो, हम साथ में।
मेरे पति का बच्चा लो।
हम बचा देगा, कोई बात नहीं, बेहतर
प्लीज भगवान के लिए बचा लो।
Please ask for help. We don't need
Okay, don't worry. You okay? You need a water, sir?
Sir, we'll manage. Just
Huh?
ask for help.
The images are very disturbing. We advise viewer discretion. Reports say at least 20 people have been killed in this attack. Many of the survivors were rushed to a nearby hospital. Some of them are reportedly critical. Those who managed to escape are recounting the events. Listen to one such account.
लोगों ने आवाज दी है कि फायरिंग हो रही है और चलते जाइए। बस ऐसे आगे दौड़ते जा रहे थे हम लोग, और पीछे से लोग आ रहे थे, हमको धक्के दे रहे थे, हम लोगों के पैरों में भी आ गए। फिर उन्होंने मुझे उठाए, बच्चे को, मेरा बेटा भी है, वो पीछे था, उनको निकाले। हम पीछे ध्यान ही नहीं दे रहे थे क्योंकि हमको आगे की सोचना था।
अच्छा, कितने टूरिस्ट वहाँ पे थे?
4-5 हजार होंगे।
4-5 हजार
बच्चे भी थे छोटे-छोटे।
Now, these numbers and pictures and accounts make one thing quite clear, that this was a massive attack, a well-planned, targeted operation, possibly the deadliest attack on civilians in recent years in India. And who was behind it? One group has claimed responsibility, TRF, the Resistance Front, TRF. It's basically an offshoot of Pakistan's Lashkar-e-Toiba. This group emerged after 2019. That's when Article 370 was abolished, when Jammu and Kashmir lost its special powers and statehood. Reports say the terrorists fled after the attack, but their days could be numbered. Top Indian officials have promised to hunt them down. Prime Minister Narendra Modi is in Saudi Arabia right now. He's been briefed on the attack. Let me quote from his statement. Those behind this heinous attack will be brought to justice. They will not be spared. Their evil agenda will never succeed. Our resolve is to fight terrorism. To fight terrorism is unshakable, and it will get even stronger. Prime Minister Modi has also asked Home Minister Amit Shah to visit the attack site. Once there, the minister will take stock of the situation. Many countries are condemning this attack. So far, we've heard from Israel, Singapore, and Argentina. I'm sure others will join in soon. Now, there are many angles and many statements to decode here, and we will do some of that. But let's also dwell on those people for a moment, on what they went through. All they wanted was a nice holiday in the valleys of Kashmir, a few days of joy with their loved ones, a chance to soak in the beauty, a chance to forget their troubles and make new memories. That's what they came here for. We've all been there. Instead, these families were ripped apart. Those memories were tainted by blood. And this is exactly what the terrorists want. They want to drive fear into the hearts of people, because if they don't, Kashmir will succeed. And if Kashmir succeeds, they will not. Just look at how many tourists were visiting Jammu and Kashmir. 2.35 crore. 2.35 crore people visited in 2024. The year before, it was 2.11 crore people. So Kashmir tourism was thriving. Big companies were eyeing investments there. Elections had just been completed. A new government was charting future plans. All in all, things were looking up for Jammu and Kashmir, and on cue, the terrorists struck. Clearly, their masters in Pakistan have been plotting. We saw indications last week. Pakistan's army chief made a fiery speech. He called Kashmir his country's jugular vein. He promised to never abandon the Kashmir issue, the Pakistan army chief, and just days later this attack happens. Also, do not forget the US Vice President is in India right now. JD Vance is visiting India, so the global media is looking closely at us. Again, on cue, the terrorists struck. If you put all of this together, a clear picture emerges. This is a well-planned, opportunistic attack. The question is, how should India respond? The first focus should be on security. Was there an intelligence lapse leading up to the attack? Was the security apparatus not enough? These questions will have to be probed. Beyond that, there must be a military response. India has worked hard to bring normalcy to Kashmir. You cannot let terrorists ruin that good work. It's important to hunt down and neutralize these threats.
Said that the termination of Jerome Powell cannot come fast enough.
He's too late, always too late, a little slow, and I'm not happy with him.
Unemployment is likely to go up as the economy slows.
You're fired! Get out of here!
And if we had a Fed chairman that understood what he was doing, interest rates would be coming down too.
The Trump tariff war has taken a turn. After targeting U.S. trade partners, Trump is now gunning for the Federal Reserve. That's the Central Bank of America and its chief, Jerome Powell. President Trump wants to sack Powell, and this fight is bleeding the American markets. Yesterday, Trump launched a new assault. He called the Fed chief, and I'm quoting, a major loser. Remember, this is the man Trump himself appointed to the job in his first term as president. Now he's a major loser. Trump says Powell is choking growth by keeping interest rates high. And he's slow to react. This is failing the economy. In fact, let me read out the latest statement from the US president. There can be a slowing of the economy unless Mr. Too Late, a major loser, lowers interest rates now. So Trump is calling Powell names. He wants an interest rate cut. Do it now. That's what Trump has said. And he's done this before.
Oh, he'll leave. If I ask him to, he'll be out of there. But I don't think he's doing the job. I'm not happy with him. I let him know it, and if I want him out, he'll be out of there real fast, believe me.
We had a Fed chairman that understood what he was doing, interest rates would be coming down too. He should bring them down.
So Trump's attacks on Powell are getting sharper by the day, and the first casualty is the U.S. stock market. Yesterday, the S&P 500 collapsed by over 2%. This index features America's top 500 companies. Since January, it has fallen by about 12%. Same with the Dow, it has fallen by 10%. Trillions of dollars in losses in barely 4 months. Today, there was some recovery, but the overall sentiment has not improved because this goes deeper than the numbers on a screen. The dollar was once the global safe haven. Now it has buckled. It has fallen to its weakest level in 3 years. Investors are not confident about U.S. government bonds either. They're demanding higher interest rates. They want more returns for lending to the U.S. government. They feel the risks are rising, so higher rates should act as protection. That's their logic. Investors are voting with their wallets. The message is quite straightforward: sell America. That's the new trend on Wall Street these days. Investors are going for large-scale sell-offs. Yesterday, hedge funds dumped the US dollar. Same with the US stocks. Even for the long term, investors do not want large holdings of US stocks. Look at the 3 biggest investors and the shift in their sentiment: BlackRock, Citi, and Bank of America. They've all cut their projections. They want to reduce their investments in US stocks, and they're talking about diversifying in other markets. Why? Because this is bigger than Jerome Powell. Donald Trump has already unleashed tariffs. He has bulldozed trade alliances, and now he's threatening the independence of the US central bank. The US economy is flashing warning signs. A recession looks more likely than ever. 3 reasons why. First, signs of contraction in the US economy, weakness in manufacturing, and the dipping optimism of consumers and business owners. There is an index that tracks all of these trends. It is called the Leading Economic Index. And for the past 3 months, this index has been falling. This is a clear red flag for the US economy. Reason number 2 why a recession is coming: the rising unemployment. In March, it climbed to over 4%. At the same time, wage growth has stalled, so fewer jobs and lower increments. Reason number 3, the inflation risk. Trump's tariffs can drive up prices. From steel to smartphones, everything will cost more. He may have paused some of the harshest tariffs, but the Fed chief is still worried. He says higher prices could already be hitting American families.
So Unemployment is likely to go up as the economy slows in all likelihood, and inflation is likely to go up as tariffs find their way, and some part of those tariffs come to be paid by the public. So that's the strong likelihood.
The U.S. economy faces obvious challenges. If Trump fires Powell, he will seal his country's economic fate. And he has said that he wants to. But there are legal hurdles here. You see, the Federal Reserve chairs serve fixed terms. A single term is for 4 years. Jerome Powell has 1 more year in office unless Trump junks convention, which he has done before. He has already removed other independent regulators. He has empowered allies like Elon Musk to reshape the US government, and that is why investors are nervous. This is not just about the market moves. This is about institutional uncertainty and chaos. Trump's war on the Fed is more than political theater. It is fueling financial turmoil. The dollar is down, the stock market is down, but one investment is shining bright, and that is gold. Gold prices have crossed 1 lakh rupees in India. Let me repeat that, 1 lakh rupees for 10 grams of gold. Same in the US markets. Gold prices crossed $3,500 per ounce for the first time. 1 ounce equals to around 28 grams. The ounce is primarily used in the US. This is an all-time high for the yellow metal. So tonight we'll take a closer look at it. Why are gold prices surging? How high could they go? And should you buy some for yourself? Well, the why is quite obvious. Donald Trump's tariffs have disrupted global markets. It has shaken confidence in the US economy. The dollar is losing value. US stocks continue to fall. And the US bond market had a scare this month. So investors are looking for something safe. Enter gold. There are many reasons why gold is safe. For starters, humans love it. Historically, gold has been used to display wealth and power. Even today, it is used to make jewelry. Secondly, gold is limited in nature. You cannot print gold like currency, nor can you issue it like stocks or bonds. This scarcity adds to the metal's value. And finally, it's highly liquid. You can sell or pledge gold in most parts of the world, so your money will not be stuck there. All these factors make the yellow metal desirable, even more so when there is uncertainty. Which brings us to the second question. How high could prices go? Frankly, no one knows. The last couple of years have been very good for gold. Let me, in fact, pull up a chart to show you how. In April 2022, gold was selling for 54,000 rupees. 54,000 for 10 grams of gold. So prices have almost doubled in 3 years. Compare that to stocks. The Sensex was trading at 57,000 in April 2022. It is now at 80,000. So gold has outperformed stocks. And this is good news for most Indians. As a country, we are obsessed with gold. Indian households own around 25,000 tons of the metal. This is higher than the top 10 central banks. So the value of those Indian holdings will be up. Top bankers have praised this trend, and among them is Uday Kotak. Let me quote from what he said. The performance of gold over time highlights that the Indian housewife is the smartest fund manager in the world. That may very well be the case, but let's turn to the final question for the moment. Should you join the buying spree, or are you already late? Yes, gold prices may continue to rise because of the tariffs, but experts believe the peak is near. Plus, a lot depends on the trade talks. Let's assume that Trump manages to strike deals. Then investors could flock back to the markets. But if he does not manage a deal, then the uncertainty will continue, maybe even get worse. And then investors could double down on gold. So the trajectory depends on politics. Either way, it's not a bad idea. A balanced portfolio should have gold investments. Most experts suggest 10 to 15%. And how should you buy it? In India, there's a preference for jewelry, but as an investment, this is not advisable. A, you'll have to store and keep it safe, and B, you'll have to pay making charges on it. And both these factors should be kept in mind. So that's why most investment gurus suggest buying gold ETFs. ETFs are exchange-traded funds. They basically mirror the price in the markets. You don't have to hold the physical gold, but you will make money from the price fluctuations. If you're looking to buy, keep two things in mind. One, wait for a temporary dip. You won't see major corrections in gold prices, but you could see a minor change, maybe a few hundred rupees. If you can wait, you can cash in on that. Secondly, gold is a long-term trade. If you like quick money based on wild swings, this one is not for you. You're supposed to hold it for long-term gains. Keep these things in mind and talk to your financial advisor, then take a call. Korean skincare, sunscreens, coffee, seaweed, wedding dresses, pet food, fake hair. Maybe you're wondering, what do all of these things have in common? Well, not very much, except Americans are panic buying all of these things. In the era of trade wars, US consumers are hoarding products like ration. Americans are worried that once tariffs kick in, they won't be able to afford this stuff. But will it help them in the long run, or will their president's trade war burn a hole in their pockets? Our next report tells you.
Korean skincare has been all the rage in the United States for years. Snail mucin, glass skin, serums and sunscreens. They promise eternal youth, and who doesn't want that? But lately, Americans aren't just buying K-beauty, they are hoarding products like it's a wartime ration. After all, they are caught in Trump's trade war.
USA, including
First, Donald Trump imposed tariffs on the entire world. Then he paused it for 90 days for all countries except China. So the clock is ticking and Americans are buying first and asking questions later. The most popular item is sunscreen. The average cost is $17.99. Tariffs could raise it to over $20 and even $25 for some brands. And guess what? A lot of these sunscreens ship from China, which now faces a 245% tariff. Yes, 245%. And it isn't just skincare. Wedding dresses, cat food, German instant coffee, human hair bundles, refurbished and used tech devices. Americans are buying it all. Take hair, for example. Raw, unprocessed human hair from China is used for sew-ins, tape-ins, K-tips and wigs. Most of this comes from China. Human hair extensions range from $100 to $400 per bundle. This depends on the quality. So let's say a bundle sells for $100. With the 245% tariffs on Chinese goods, a $100 item would now cost $345. Meanwhile, the refurbished tech marketplace saw sales triple. People are hoarding old iPads like their heirlooms. Forget diamonds, the real generational wealth is your 2020 MacBook Air. And then there are brides. The wedding might be 2 years away, but the urgency is immediate. People are panic buying wedding dresses like the aisle is under siege. Brides say tariffs don't care about love, and they're not wrong. Because love in the time of trade war, well, that's a battlefield too. Others are stockpiling instant coffee and years of cat food. They believe their pet deserves the best, even if the haul burns a hole in their pocket. But is this really helping? Well, maybe for now. For consumers who stock up before the tariffs land, it's a temporary win. But for everyone else, the math is grim. Especially for small business owners, vendors, and the middlemen. It may seem like Black Friday came early in America, but it shows the impact of Trump's trade war. He wants other countries to pay up, but looks like he's forcing Americans to empty their wallets instead. According to estimates, clothing prices could go up by 60%. Pharma products could be 12% more expensive. Food prices could rise by 2.6%. Tech prices could rise by 30%. A typical US family could spend nearly $4,700 more every year due to tariffs if their purchase patterns remain the same. So the real cost of a trade war isn't a sunscreen or a wedding dress. It's what happens when everyday objects, routines, rituals, even romance get caught in a geopolitical crossfire. So in the land of freedom, liberty and SPF 50, the citizens are preparing, hitting add to cart. But while stockpiling may feel like control, it's a response to something fundamentally out of control. Trade wars may start in the White House, but they end in American homes, one panic purchase at a time.
India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi is in West Asia. He is visiting the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. It's his third trip to the country in the last 10 years. But unlike the previous times, he is not visiting the capital Riyadh. Prime Minister Modi is visiting the financial hub of Saudi Arabia, Jeddah. We'll get to why in a bit. But first, the pictures from today. Saudi Arabia is pulling out all the stops for India. As Prime Minister Modi's plane entered Saudi airspace, fighter jets began escorting it. Take a look. In Jeddah, the Prime Minister got a grand welcome. He was greeted with a 21-gun salute at the airport. After that, it was time for business. Prime Minister Modi and Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman are expected to meet shortly. They're hoping to sign 6 agreements on space, on energy, on healthcare, science, culture and advanced tech. The meeting's location is also notable. Jeddah is the Saudi Kingdom's commercial hub. It is also a gateway to Mecca. The last time an Indian Prime Minister visited Jeddah was in 1982. That's when Indira Gandhi traveled to the city. So this trip is coming after 4 decades. In many ways, it symbolizes the changing relationship. Riyadh is the political nerve center, but Jeddah is the future. It will power the Saudi Kingdom's fortunes for decades to come. That's what Prime Minister Modi is trying to do as well, create a long-term roadmap for this relationship. Today's talks will reportedly feature 4 main issues. Number 1 is defense cooperation. Last year, India and Saudi Arabia signed a military deal. The kingdom is buying artillery shells from India. And how big is the deal? It's worth around $225 million. It was the first such bilateral defense deal. India will be looking to expand this cooperation. The goal is to sell more weapons to Saudi Arabia. So that's one point of focus. Number 2 is trade. India is eyeing a free trade deal with the GCC. GCC is the Gulf Cooperation Council. It's a group of countries, including Bahrain, Kuwait, Oman, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and the UAE. They make up the GCC. Now, India already has a free trade deal with the UAE, but a deal with the GCC would be a big boost. It would help India diversify its exports. The third priority is travel permits. The Saudi Kingdom recently halted short-term visas for Indians. This will remain in effect until mid-June, basically until the Hajj season ends. This move is aimed at stopping unauthorized Hajj pilgrimages. But Prime Minister Modi could push for some relief, maybe more Hajj permits for Indians this year. And finally, the fourth priority, the issue of Indian prisoners. Almost 25% of Indians jailed abroad are in Saudi Arabia. Now, as you know, Saudi law is quite brutal. So New Delhi is trying to repatriate some of them. These are the four main areas of discussion. But what about the long term? What is the foundation of this relationship, the India-Saudi relationship? So far, it's been oil. Saudi Arabia is India's third biggest energy supplier, but the kingdom won't be satisfied because India is buying more oil from Russia. Moscow makes up 36% of India's oil imports. Meanwhile, imports from Saudi Arabia fell to a 14-year low. And this trend will worry Riyadh. They will be pushing New Delhi to buy more oil, perhaps even offer discounted rates. So energy will remain the foundation of this relationship, at least until the end of this decade. And what happens after that? What happens when countries go green? Prime Minister Modi and MBS are working on that too. They're expected to sign a deal on green hydrogen. There is also talk of solar collaboration, so energy, but not oil. Another foundation could be defense. Traditionally, the Saudi kingdom has bought weapons from the US. Right now, Donald Trump may sell them arms, but a Democratic president may not. And we saw that happen, with Joe Biden pausing military sales for most of his presidency. So Riyadh needs to diversify its arms purchases, and that's where India could come in. Finally, you have the economic corridor, IMEC, the India, Middle East, Europe corridor. It was unveiled during the 2023 G20 summit in New Delhi. The plan is to link India to Europe via West Asia, and Saudi Arabia is a big part of that project. Once completed, IMEC would link the two economies. So there's a lot to watch out for in this trip to Jeddah. Both sides have the political will to expand ties. Let's see if this translates into progress.
This is very much a win-win partnership. It certainly will be far into the future.
It is day 2 of J.D. Vance's India visit. The US Vice President touched down in Delhi yesterday. He has come with his family, his wife Usha Vance and their 3 children. Today they were in the city of Jaipur in Rajasthan. Their first stop was the iconic Amer Fort, a 16th century marvel built by Raja Man Singh. It is now a UNESCO World Heritage Site. The US second family was welcomed in true Rajasthani style. A red carpet was rolled out. Elephants stood tall in greeting. There were folk dances. Rajasthan's Chief Minister and Deputy Chief Minister were also in attendance. From there, J.D. Vance headed to the Rajasthan International Centre, where he spoke about the US-India relationship. He called it a win-win partnership.
Americans want further access to Indian markets. This is a great place to do business, and we want to give our people more access to this country. And Indians, we believe, will thrive from greater commerce in the United States. This is very much a win-win partnership. It certainly will be far into the future.
So it's been quite a busy day. Tomorrow, the Vice President and his family will travel to Agra to visit the Taj Mahal. They will also tour a cultural hub showcasing traditional Indian crafts and artisanship. From there, they will return to Jaipur, and on Thursday, they will return to the US. The optics are good. But what's the purpose of this visit? Boosting ties, yes, but also addressing the elephant in the room, Trump's trade war. India and the US are working on a trade deal. Washington is India's largest trading partner. It is the biggest buyer of Indian exports. It accounts for 18% of India's trade. This month, US President Trump announced a series of tariffs. India was hit by 26%. Then he hit pause for 90 days. So New Delhi has time till the 8th of July. By then, India should secure a trade deal. And that is what this visit is about.
In our meeting yesterday, Prime Minister Modi and I made very good progress on all of those points. And we were especially excited to formally announce that America and India have officially finalized the terms of reference for the trade negotiation. I think this is a vital step. Thank you. I believe this is a vital step toward realizing President Trump's and Prime Minister Modi's vision, because it sets a roadmap toward a final deal between our nations. I believe there is much that America and India can accomplish together.
In the past, Donald Trump has called out India on tariffs. He has called India a tariff abuser. His deputy, J.D. Vance, was far more diplomatic, at least while he was in India. He called Prime Minister Modi a tough negotiator. At the same time, he said the U.S. wants India to seal a deal.
Look, President Trump and I know that Prime Minister Modi is a tough negotiator. He drives a hard bargain. It's one of the reasons why we respect him. And we don't blame Prime Minister Modi for fighting for India's industry. But we do blame American leaders of the past for failing to do the same for our workers. And we believe that we can fix that to the mutual benefit of both the United States and India.
So what does Washington want? J.D. Vance's speech focused on two parts. One was defense equipment and the other was energy. The U.S. Vice President wants India to buy more defense equipment, including the F-35 fighter jets. The U.S. also wants to sell more energy to India, including nuclear energy. Is India open to all of this? Well, for now, New Delhi has lowered tariffs on several products. It is weighing more cuts to appease Trump. But there are clear sticking points, like agriculture. For India, agriculture is a red line. The US wants greater access to India's agricultural market. It is a sector that is heavily subsidized. It is politically sensitive. It employs millions of people in India. So while both sides talk about a win-win, negotiators have their work cut out. They're hoping for the first phase of the deal to be signed by October.
I believe that if India and the United States work together successfully, we are going to see a 21st century that is prosperous and peaceful. But I also believe that if we fail to work together successfully, the 21st century could be a very dark time for all of humanity.
Like I said, this is a visit that is high on optics. The private dinner in Delhi, the charm offensive in Jaipur, the upcoming visit to the Taj Mahal. But it's all building up to a deadline. Can India and the US find common ground? The vice presidential visit indicates they're trying. They're laying the groundwork for what could be the defining trade relationship of this decade. But with the clock ticking to July 8th, the real test lies ahead. Can two of the world's largest democracies turn goodwill into a good deal? We will find out soon. Now let's turn to Vice President Vance's home country, the United States of America. There's a storm brewing in Washington. At the center of it is America's defense minister, or defense secretary as they call him. His name is Pete Hegseth. He could soon face the chopping block. Reports say the White House is looking for a replacement. The trigger? Pete Hegseth's chats on Signal, the messaging app. Remember, this is the defense minister we are talking about. He is accused of using a private messaging app to discuss war plans. And this is the second such scandal within a month. War plans against the Houthis have been leaked yet again. Senior advisors have been fired. The Pentagon is in turmoil. Pete Hegseth is barely leading. He is living crisis to crisis. He has, of course, denied all reports. He's called them a hoax. Trump is backing him for now, but the president's patience seems to be wearing thin. Our next report has more.
I, Pete Hegseth, do solemnly swear.
On the 25th of January, Pete Hegseth was sworn in as the Secretary of Defense. After a razor-thin Senate vote, Hegseth finally made it into US President Donald Trump's administration. From serving in the US Army to becoming a host for Fox News, Hegseth's confirmation as Pentagon chief was undoubtedly the highest post he ever held in his career. But Hegseth's first 100 days have been nothing but controversial, and he is himself to blame for it. Pressure is mounting on the Pentagon chief. Reports are swirling that the White House is looking to replace him. This comes as Hegseth lives from scandal to scandal. Hegseth has again been accused of sharing secret war plans, this time with his wife, brother, and about a dozen friends. The war plans were about upcoming US airstrikes against the Houthis of Yemen. The details were shared on the messaging app called Signal. And now the Pentagon chief is in the line of fire. He's being questioned about his careless approach towards professionalism, but Hegseth is calling it a media hoax.
And as they peddle those lies, no one ever calls them on it. See, this is what the media does. They take anonymous sources from disgruntled former employees, and then they try to slash and burn people and ruin their reputations. Not going to work with me.
Now, this is the second such scandal surrounding Hegseth. The first one happened almost a month ago. Hegseth shared war plans against the Houthis on a Signal group chat, which included Vice President J.D. Vance, other senior officials, and a journalist. Several Pentagon officials were fired. It was like they were thrown under the bus. That incident raised questions about Hegseth's credibility. And the second scandal has given critics more ammunition. They're asking one question: how can the Pentagon chief keep making rookie mistakes? Hegseth is now facing calls to resign, and the recent reports of the White House hunting for a replacement are only adding to the fire. But Donald Trump is backing his blue-eyed boy, at least for now.
Are you bringing up Signal again? I thought they gave that up 2 weeks ago. It's just the same old stuff from the media. That's an old one. Try finding something new.
During his first presidential term, Trump fired at least 30 senior officials, including the then Secretary of Defense, Mark Esper. For now, Hegseth seems to be on Trump's good side, but he's walking a tightrope. Hegseth's mistakes aren't just a domestic headache. The world is watching his actions and even his chats. This is a test for Trump, and the US president is not known to be a patient man.
Now let's turn to the war in Ukraine, 3 years and counting and heading towards a potential turning point. Vladimir Putin is extending a hand of peace. The Russian president says he is open to direct talks with Ukraine. This is a first. It's extremely significant. Since 2022, Russia and Ukraine have not been in the same room. When the war began, diplomacy took a backseat, the death toll shot up and cities were reduced to rubble. Today, Russian troops control large parts of Ukraine. Moscow has weathered everything from Western sanctions to criticism, and despite all of it, the Russian economy seems to be doing better than many of Ukraine's Western allies. And Ukraine itself is, of course, struggling. It has neither the troops nor the funds to stay in the fight. What's worse, it is losing support from its biggest allies, most notably the US. So Putin wanting talks could be a lifeline for Ukraine. The Russian president has said that he wants constructive dialogue, no preconditions, no ultimatums, just talks. The remarks were made last night. Listen to this.
As we have always said, we look positively to any peace initiatives. We hope that the representatives of the Kiev regime will also feel the same way. Now we see that the Kiev regime is trying to seize the initiative and talk about expanding the time frame of ceasefire and the targets. But we must think about it and carefully assess everything and look at the results.
Now, this is a major departure from Moscow's earlier position. The language is shifting from military operations to diplomacy. But why now? After 3 years of war, what has made Putin offer dialogue? There could be two reasons. First, Russian gains on the battlefield are secure. Russian troops have solidified their positions. Almost 20% of Ukraine is under Russian control. Kiev lacks the manpower to reclaim this lost territory, and Moscow is in a position of strategic strength. That's the first reason. The second, winds of change in the West, particularly the US. Donald Trump is in the White House. He has cut military aid for Ukraine. He's forcing Kiev to make a deal, talk to Russia, or risk losing all American support. Then there is Europe. Their economic fatigue is growing. They've sent billions of dollars to Kiev, but the results have been subpar, and now their focus has shifted. Today, Europe's priority is self-defense, and Russia sees this. It is offering a chance to engage, at least on the surface, and this is not a sign of weakness, this is a calculated move. Moscow realizes that you can only achieve so much on the battlefield. Once you secure an advantage there, it is time to negotiate, hence the call for talks. And how did Ukraine respond? With accusations and suspicion. Ukrainian President Zelensky said dialogue and fighting cannot go together. He wants a ceasefire first.
Ukrainian representatives, both at the meetings that took place in Paris and the ones scheduled this week in London, have a primary task: to push for an unconditional ceasefire. This must be the starting point. Peace comes in silence. And only when there is real silence and people trust the entire negotiation process can fundamental issues be resolved.
The thing is, both Russia and Ukraine share the blame. So far, both sides have refused to sit and talk. Zelensky even signed a decree legally prohibiting negotiations with Moscow. But now Putin is hinting at a possible thaw. The war has shown the power of weapons. Now it is time to test diplomacy. Russia's demands are pragmatic. There are three of them, three main demands: ceasefire along the current front lines, recognition of Crimea as Russian territory, and no NATO membership for Ukraine. Russia says these demands are non-negotiable. For 3 years, the demands were ignored, but now with Trump in the White House, the picture looks different. Trump promised a ceasefire on day one of taking office. Day one. It's already been 3 months, and there's no deal yet. So Trump is getting desperate. Reports say Washington is considering Moscow's demands, including recognizing Crimea as part of Russia. They're open to it. And what about Ukraine's demands? Well, Zelensky wants every inch of land back, including Crimea. He also wants security guarantees from the US, and he wants NATO membership for Ukraine. The way things stand at the moment, it's like asking for the moon. No wonder Kiev's pitch has no takers. The US has already rejected their NATO bid. As for the American security guarantees, Trump wants something in return for that. He wants Ukraine's rare earth minerals first. Clearly, Ukraine does not have the cards to dictate terms. Russia has made its move. Ukraine wants to consult its allies before responding. They will meet in London this week. Will they agree to talk? They aren't really spoiled for choice, and eventually they will have to talk at some point. When that happens, the world will remember who opened the door first. Imagine this. You're a recent college graduate. You have stellar grades, a killer cover letter, and glowing recommendations. What do you do next? How about look for an internship? I know it sounds strange. Internships are usually undertaken by students, whether in school or college. They are temporary. Most students intern for a month or two during their summer or winter breaks. And internships may be glamorized in teen movies, but in reality, these gigs are often unpaid, and they rarely come with a specific job description. Interns have to perform all kinds of small tasks, from taking printouts to making data entries. This is quite unlike full-time jobs, which offer long-term positions and a specific role and responsibilities. Plus, full-time jobs come with financial compensation and benefits. Internships usually offer none of it. And yet there is one big benefit. They increase chances of securing a full-time job after graduation. They're like a career test drive. But now internships are turning into launchpad jobs themselves. Let me show you a report. This is from a popular careers website. It says there is an uptick in applications. More and more graduates are applying for internship programs, and this is a sign of challenging times. Look at the US. Their job market is cooling. People looking for new opportunities are having a tough time. According to government data, youth unemployment rate stands at 9.4%. This includes ages 16 to 24. Basically, early career workers, they're having a tough time in the job market. They're struggling to find prospects out of college. So new grads are turning to internships. In fact, since the pandemic, 2024 was the most competitive season for internships in the United States. But this scenario is not limited to the world's biggest economy. Look at the second biggest, China. The situation is even worse. A record 12 million fresh graduates are going to enter the job market this year. 12 million. A lot of them may not find jobs because youth unemployment rate stands at 16.5%. There aren't enough jobs, the market is competitive, and many fresh graduates face two options. Either join the club of overqualified youngsters working low-paying jobs as drivers, cleaners, or laborers, or scramble to find internships. For most students, this second option is a safer bet, so much so that many are paying brokers thousands of dollars to secure internships. And now companies are hopping on the trend. This includes Chinese tech giant Tencent Holdings. They have launched a major recruitment drive, not for jobs, but for internships. They will offer 28,000 internships over the next 3 years. It's the same story in India too. As per government data, youth unemployment rate in India stands at over 10%. This is in the 15 to 29 age group. As graduates have a tough time finding jobs, they're turning to internships, and companies are happy to oblige. Let me show you the data between 2022 and 2025. This is for India. Reports say internship postings have surged by 103%. Last year alone, the opportunities rose by 25%. And recent graduates are increasingly tapping them. This comes with a range of benefits for young workers. They develop new skills, they build relationships in the industry. Plus, when full-time jobs are hard to come by, internships can help people get a foot in the door. They can try and turn it into a permanent position. And not all internships are unpaid or poorly paid. Many come with handsome financial compensation. So there are a lot of upsides here. That said, the bigger picture is still grim. It's not clear when the job market will pick up. But if you feel stuck while trying to start your career, this may be your best bet. An internship could be just what you need to kickstart your career. Today is Earth Day. Think of it as a day devoted to our planet. It draws attention to environmental issues and climate change, and around 1 billion people celebrate it the world over. Children are asked to pick up litter, people are urged to turn off the lights, and corporate giants boost their so-called green campaigns. But is any of this helping? In today's rapidly warming world, is Earth Day still relevant? Here's a report.
The year was 1970. On April 22nd, 20 million people took the streets of U.S. cities. They organized mass protests over damage being done to the planet. And this is how Earth Day emerged, an international day devoted to our planet. This was far from the first environment action the world had seen, but the protest left an indelible mark on climate policy. By the end of the decade, a stream of environmental laws were passed in the U.S. 2 decades later, around 200 million people from 141 countries joined efforts to boost recycling. And now, more than 5 decades later, about 1 billion celebrate Earth Day the world over. But is it still relevant? Today, celebrating Earth Day mostly means telling school-going children to turn off the lights for an hour, or buying into corporate greenwashing and its so-called sustainability sales. Does Earth Day even have a point anymore? Take this year's theme, for instance. It is Our Power, Our Planet. It calls for everyone to unite around renewable energy and triple the global generation of clean electricity by 2030 to reach net zero carbon emissions. Achieving this goal is considered crucial by experts to limit the rise in global temperatures. But it is an ambitious goal. So far, the pursuit of net zero emissions is a resounding failure. Coal, oil, and natural gas production are at record highs. Emissions of greenhouse gases continue to rise. Nation after nation is lagging behind in its environment goals. And the home of Earth Day, the U.S., is backtracking on its net zero path instead of fast-tracking the progress. Since taking office in January, President Donald Trump has set in motion a series of rollbacks on American climate policy. So this is the world we live in. It is enough to make us lose hope in progress. But this is also the very reason why Earth Day remains important even today. The past 10 years have been the warmest years on record, with 2024 leading the pack. 40% of Earth's surfaces are considered degraded. We are losing animals and plants at a rate not seen in 10 million years. Now, more than 1 million species are on the brink of extinction. Climate disasters are becoming worse and more frequent. And this is not just an environmental problem. It is also an economic one. Over the last decade, the world suffered at least $2.8 trillion in loss due to climate change. This includes everything from infrastructure damage to rise in diseases due to global warming. If we continue on this path, by 2050, the world faces $12.5 trillion in losses and more than 14 million deaths. So what can you do about it? There are two things to understand. First, climate change is a symptom of something much bigger. The fact that humans are consuming resources faster than they can regenerate. So resources are becoming scarce. And more waste is produced than the nature can absorb. So cut down where you can. And secondly, know that this is not a personal problem. Your paper straws or toilet papers are a very small part of the problem. Climate change needs institutional change. Global warming is a policy problem, and those fueling it must be held accountable. So about time we change how we fight climate change. Because Earth Day won't work unless we do.
Now it's time for Vantage Shots, images that tell the story. Pope Francis's body lies in an open casket as the Vatican prepares for his funeral. Israeli protesters face off with the police in an anti-government rally, and Palestinian children play in the rubble as war rages on in Gaza. On this day in 1945, Hitler admitted defeat in the Second World War as Soviet troops closed in on Berlin. Hitler held a tense meeting in his underground bunker. There he admitted that the war was all but lost. He also said that he would stay in Berlin and take his own life. We're leaving you on that note. Thank you for watching. We'll see you tomorrow.
Greeting you with aloha and namaste.
I love India. Presence, occupation of a territory by another country pertains to India, what we saw in Kashmir.
How do you see Trump's America?
Yes, the current administration behaves differently from the previous administration.
Are you saying that there are foreign powers who are trying to bring down the current government in Syria?
Exactly.
Iran, maybe Russia.
Prime Minister Modi committed to South-South, cooperation.
For not over 50%.
Is Ukraine prepared to pay the price for that peace?
No compromises at the cost of territorial integrity and sovereignty.